Yes, the lo-fis are on for another late night session of recording for the probably the most unwanted show on the internet. These are my casual conversations with me, Carlz, in another attempt to make sense of my Spanish ideas, but in English. Whoa, whoa. So, greetings everyone. Thank you for sharing this time with me again. And this episode is especially dedicated for those who grew up in like the terrible times between the 1990 and like probably like what 2000 something. I mean, uh, this episode is about Matrix Reloaded. So, why is important that you grew up in that time? Because nowadays, in this sort of like a retro way of looking at it, at the situation, nowadays, what could be similar to the Matrix back in the late 90s? There was almost no movie wise. We're talking about big huge hits, maybe some of current Marvel things, maybe it could be relatable, but basically back then, at least for me, I think the Matrix, before like Lord of the Rings and all of that things, it was like the first honest big massive hit that I've ever seen in my life. Like it's worth mentioning that when I went and watched the Matrix for the first time, like I don't remember how old I was, like 18, no, maybe something around there, between let's say 15 and 20. I don't remember, I don't want to make the math right now, but I went to this movie with like no expectation whatsoever. We went maybe like the first or second week when the movie opened, and of course, if you are in that age, right, you are a teenager, like growing up in the late 90s, like no massive internet or anything. Like, I think probably 3.5 out of 4 of us, we had like this rebellious sense inside of us, right? Maybe a little bit punk, a little bit emo, however you want to call it, right? But we all had it. So when the Matrix came out, it was like this big, huge deal. Like a movie that spoke directly to us, right? The rebellion against this massive invisible machine that like nobody back then had any idea how it will turn out, right? Nobody know about like TikTok or Twitch or anything, or like influencers or any. Well, I guess influencers were like regular famous people, I guess. But like we didn't really know, but we knew that this invisible machine was coming for us, right? So if we see the Matrix, of course, again, this is full of spoilers, and you remember those. I remember like if it was yesterday, those last lines of Matrix One, right? About Neo, like, oh, we're coming for you, machine. Like you can't stop us. Whoa, you can't stop us. We're coming for you. And then he goes out flying like fucking Superman. And you live, and then Rage Against the Machine start playing, and you are hyped as fuck. Like it couldn't be more hyped after any movie. Well, not until Lord of the Rings, but years later, right? So what's the point of all of this introduction? If you grew up in that era and in that era and you watch that movie, you get this feeling that you saw something like transcendental, maybe in a way, right? Whatever you experience was like a phenomena, a moment in time, idea wise and movie wise. Like you don't realize it until way later. And with way later, I mean the sequel. So, years later, we get the sequel, right? Matrix Reloaded. Ooh, who wasn't hyped for that? We all probably were, like all of us, like Matrix fans, right? We had our trench coats, our like fancy sunglasses or whatever, and we go to watch Matrix Reloaded. And I remember back in the day, I had no idea was what was Matrix Reloaded going to be about. I don't even remember the trailers or anything. All I know it was like the sequel of the Matrix. So what that meant to me, it was that I was expecting to see like a concept like beyond Matrix One, right? Like something that conceptually would expand whatever I saw during Matrix One. It's going to give me more. Maybe you could be a little bit greedy in that way, right? Oh, I want more out of it. And turns out Matrix Reloaded sucks so much ass, but so much that my issues with that movie remain to this day. I mean, I would have no idea that like what 20 years later I was going to be like trying to record like some thoughts of me for the same internet that was perhaps being criticized by Matrix 1 about the movie, but that's just how the dice rolls, right? So, what did I hate about particularly from Matrix Reloaded? During my Spanish episode, like I had this, as I usually do, these like three working ideas, right? But I really didn't have the whole picture in my head. Whenever and I hate, I like the word hate, but whenever something bothers me, for whatever period of time it does, it keeps like turning itself around in my head, but sometimes it's not fully honest. You know, sometimes you add too much of your own. It's not ideas, but it's inexcapable. Oh, that's a hard word, but you can't really escape all of your biases and everything, right? So you have these ideas that sort of justify your emotions, but in the end they might be just emotions. The thing is, um, I had the following criticisms that have not gone away. By the way, I did watch the movie again, like since the longest time before doing my original Spanish episode. And the first thing that bothered me back then, and it bothers me now, is the aspect of world building. So there's one deep focus on Matrix 2 and 3, which are basically just one movie split in half, right? And it's the fact that they went way, way, way overboard with the concept of world building. This is something that naturally happens in most works of fiction, right? And partly we want it to be like that. You don't want to come up to some fiction or fantasy that's full of holes, that doesn't give you a full picture of whatever world they offering you, where like the playground where things happen, right? But you never did realize back then between Matrix 1 and Matrix 2 that this was completely unnecessary for the Matrix. So as year passed, like there's a bunch of things that keep like repeating on your head. You can say like regurgitating. To me, back in the day, it was that the whole architect speech. That is something that I've hated all my life since I saw it. So even back then, I have not studied philosophy or anything, right? And somehow, as it did with Matrix One, any common spectator could sit down in that movie and feel that there was some sort of interpretation or some sort of idea being developed right there. So the main contrast between Matrix 1 and Matrix 2 is that that idea in Matrix 1 is sort of like pure. You can call it pure. You can call it like I don't know. Maybe pure is like too much of a word. And it's a word that frankly I don't really care for. It's like no, I don't know. I don't want to be calling on some Nazi shit or anything, but like pure is not. It's not a word that I like, but it's an idea that it's unconstrained. That's a good word. Like unconstrained by necessarily constraints, of course, that come up with world building. So, what do I mean by this? In Matrix 1, Okay, Neo is the one. He pushes the limits of his brain, right? Because inside the matrix, it's all in the brain. He pushes the limits of his brain to break the rules of the matrix reality, which is based in our reality. So he can fly, so he can, like, I don't know, destroy buildings, because the power of the mind is limitless, right? So I don't need to explain that to you. I don't need it. I don't need it. It's like, and you as a watcher, like as somebody watching the movie, you can think, oh, that could be me, right? I have a brain, allegedly. I have a brain, so I could be the one, like the like the movie from with Jet Li, right? I will be the one. I could be the one because my mind is the same as Neo's, right? Like I'm just a human being. But then you get to Matrix Reloaded, and there's an explanation for it. There's an explanation. Oh, the one is supposed to be this bug inside the matrix that I created because the original matrix was so perfect that oh no, what did he say? Like the original matrix was a perfect form, but like humans are imperfect, and like that's why we had to create the anomaly of the outlier of the one, whatever, right? What does that do immediately? This is something that I developed during my Spanish episode that came as a revelation to me. That that scene is an example of what the main issue with Matrix Reloaded is, which is the destruction of Matrix 1. And this is no small thing. The mere fact that they tell you that, like, oh no, the one is this outlier in the system or whatever, and like then you have to choose, like they tell you that they make a Neo's predecessors also choose between like saving the city or like doing something really egotistical, right? Something that is selfish for them. Like, how is that not limiting whatever is happening in part one? In part one, like any like 8 to 5 guy, like blue collar dude, could be identified with Neo or with, what's his name, John Anderson, like some shit like that. Anyone could be identified by that, and the desire to be free of this system, which sucks to this day, still sucks, right? It's the same fucking system, it still sucks. Everybody dreams to break free. But then part two comes up, and they tell you like, no, no, not everyone can do it. Only Neo can do it, right? And you're like, so I can be Neo. Well, no, you can't, right? No, you can't. And this doesn't stop at Neo. It grows in every level and layer of world building the Wachowskis began to create for Matrix Reloaded. Like there's a so many events or ideas or things that they did that they just go against what they did in one. So for example, the other main idea, of course we're talking about Neo, we talk about Smith, right? But not only Smith, but about the rebellious programs. Even back then you could say, okay, so the whole idea of the machines winning in part one, which led to the human, no, it's not an apocalypse, like a semi-apocalypse, whatever. The only reason why that happened was because they were like a unity, like they work on their one brain, right? Like so, machines work perfectly. Like they didn't need they needed the confusion and organization that humans needed. Why? Because they had no individuality. That was the whole point. Even inside one, every program had a use, right? A function, right? That's how you work inside of a unity towards the best result possible. You are like a part of a big machine. But in two, they come up with the idea that there are like individual programs. And for a movie that is so like self-righteous, if you want to call it, or like so pandering about oh how deep we are, it's amazing how they never really address that. So while Smith supposedly got like the Neo virus, right? And he got like, you free me, Mr. Anderson, like you're part of me, whatever. Like you get the Merovingian, like you have like the Chinese karate dude, like the other Chinese guy that creates like keys. Those morons, like the twins, which is some sort of like a ghost BS. So to me, the the contrast is between what the Wachowskis wanted to do and what the Wachowskis could do. So in one, they couldn't do much. One was even though it turned out to be a huge movie. Matrix One was a small movie with just one idea, one leading idea. So for example, agents in one, they were like antivirus controllers of the Matrix, right? So they had no limits because they were programs, right? But then you get what they wanted to do, and since they watch way too much anime, like way too fucking too much anime, they come up with this shit, right? Which is not only like stereotypical, but it's lame. Like, okay, this is a program that is obsessed with what is the bullshit that the Merovingian says, like, no, I want to know the what the how do you say, like the passion, like cause, no, causality, everything that has a cause has an effect. And like what is this, like carny shit mumbo jumbo, like what? Like, no, you see, everything that has a cause has a beginning, has an end. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, how is this at anything related with the main plot of the movie? How does this has anything to do with the bigger picture? Or how does his obsession with causality has any sort of relevance to understand like the unity of the machine brain or the machine world, or the individuality of a synthetic consciousness, right? Like you could say like, oh, but like it's because like he was programmed to do so. And there is so much shit that they talk about doing what you're supposed to do, like the Chinese guy, like the one for the keys. He keeps saying like, oh, I'm here because I'm supposed to, or like, I'm here because this is what I'm supposed to do. And I don't know if they thought that thing through. This is like a even more important, because they start talking about predetermination, right? Or like predestination, or like to be predetermined to do so. And they start like trampling over free will, right? I don't think it doesn't sound as poetic as they think it does, when you have like the Oracle and like Neo and everything, and they all are there because they're supposed to be there. So the Oracle is another interesting example, because she or they, since they are like, they say they are a program, right? They are not in a way predicting anything, right? They are sort of like not predicting in a magical way, but predicting in a like kind of like a mathematical way, right? It's like, no, this is not supposed to happen, but this has the higher chance of happening. And it inevitably ends up like sounding like BS, like completely total BS. And like it's like, how can we understand them being like artificial beings with sentience for one side, and then another side you have like Smith, who becomes this sort of like virus? It's all plot related. So in the end, the big issue with the characters that spans from world building and drops or like leaks into characters is that you have characters that become plot points, but they stop becoming like characters. And you can tell not only with machines, but with humans also. So you don't even have to go that far. You take the three main protagonists, Neo, Trinity, and Morpheus, right? Neo goes into this plot-driven like strict one way, sort of like point A to point B. No, I'm the one, blah blah blah. I do this, whatever, right? Then you get Trinity, who sort of shrinks down into this really mediocre component of Neo's life, which is a love interest. Like, there's no sugarcoating that, right? Trinity becomes just Neo's love interest, and of course, like some sort of bondage shit with all the leather, but whatever. And Morpheus, like when I rewatch this movie, I was like, Morpheus should have the biggest identity crisis of them all. So, in the context of Matrix 1, right? It's perfect. We're talking about a movie about the power of the mind and belief, right? So, the fact that Morpheus believes that there's this mythical thing like called the One, right? It's okay because it's a movie about ideas, and I still to this day I remember that great conclusion of Matrix 1, right? And I also remember this on my Spanish version. It was like, he's the one, and he has this revelation. It's like seeing Jesus appear in front of you, or some mythical thing like that, or like winning, I don't know, some sort of tournament, right? He's the one. But then you get to Matrix 2, right? And Morpheus, he gets the revelation that comes from Neo himself. That, okay, like he's not the one, he's just this guy with powers, and like the whole hierarchy of energy and power gets all fucked up. Like, I didn't remember this back in the day, but after rewatching the movie, I remember it. The fact that I can't believe why there's people in Zion, in the city, that do not believe that Neo is the one. And the movie never does explain why there's any space for doubt that he's the one. Like, nobody can fly in the Matrix, nobody can do whatever he does, and nobody cares to explain what it means. So this point of unevolving characters or falling into mere plot characters is terrible, because it cuts down a lot of the passion and symbology that the characters may have. So Neo is not anyone revolting against the system, right? Trinity is not this. Well, in one, Trinity is not the big deal, right? But she's a little bit like juxtaposed with Cypher a little bit in one. And Morpheus is not this like this guy on a mythical quest to find like the hidden dragon, right? They're not. They all get reduced to functional plot elements. Oh, your Twitch chat, hey Goki. Like in 2 more than 3. Well, that's sort of like the thing that I wanted to say now. Matrix 2 or Matrix Reloaded just throws all of this shit at your face, pretending that it's good, pretending that it's great, but there's action. So you give like 2 kids, and I completely understand it. Like, I'm no movie maker, I'm just some bald guy. But I completely understand how you would like to develop and achieve these images, these scenes, like these grandiose, like the famous highway scene where everything explodes and everything, or like Neo doing his karate, right? But I couldn't help but think that what they're doing is not all original, because they got all of this inspiration from like anime and shit, right? But it's irrelevant. Again, Matrix 1 has like great action scenes, but they're not the point of the movie. And I think that's sort of like the idea. You can't distract with pretty things, just let them be, and think people will not notice. And that's something that happens with one of the characters that I hate the most, which are these fucking twins, like the Gus, whatever. Like, they look stupid. They never explain what they are, or how they work, and they are only there to be like these mini bosses for like the persecution is seen in the highway. They're like the mini bosses, and like fucking Morpheus kills them with fire of all things, and you're like, okay, whatever, right? But you see, kind of like everything points towards that. Like, as I said, Matrix Reloaded and Matrix Revolutions are basically one movie cut in half, right? And you can see it even more, because Matrix Revolutions, I'm gonna talk a little bit about it, of course, if it's one movie cut in half, right? Like, Matrix Revolutions is just a conclusion. It's just one big, long third act for this story, where everyone gets even less relevant. Like, everyone gets like even more. Everyone takes even a backseater, right, to the big conclusion of the machines attacking, and like they attack Zion and they're coming for you and whatever, right? But considering what is going on since Reloaded, everything becomes so irrelevant. Everything, it's more questions than anything else. So, for example, like the big revelation of Smith going into the real world, and like Neo getting his powers into the real world. How is that not just some Dragon Ball Z bullshit? And okay, you don't have to explain everything, but things have to make some sense. So, what is the possible explanation for Neo to have his like these disruptive powers on the quote unquote real world? Is it just because he didn't chose to reignite the Matrix, which, by the way, is kind of like a Dark Souls from Software ending if I've ever seen one? There's just these two choices. One choices give you this obvious result, and this other choices give you this other obvious result. Or whatever. But nothing really makes sense. And then you realize that you are in this track, this linear track from point A from point B, and all the magic of the movie has been taken away. Like, and everything becomes a trigger after that. I personally, I did enjoy Revolutions a little bit more than Reloaded, because Revolution is just this war movie, right? But I did enjoy it a little bit more, in a sense that I thought for a second that it was just simpler, but it isn't, right? And you became again like played with questions. Like the biggest one here in my latest watching of them, which I've been keep thinking about it since I recorded my Spanish episode. Like, when Neo goes from 2 to 3, right? And he goes like, you need us, machines need us, and that is the plot of 1, right? So that's why humans still exist, even though machines work, because they needed our energy. And the fucking architect just brushes it out like, oh, we'll find another way. And you're like, okay, why didn't they found it before? So I guess what I'm thinking is, machines are supposed to work in a progressive way, and if they already had found the way to stop needing humans, they would have destroyed them way before. So there are like several plot holes in that sense. Okay, so the Matrix is a cycle, right, of the one being selected and the Matrix being rebooted, right? So they never killed the humans because they needed them, so they kept the cycle, right? But now they finally decided that they don't need them, right? But now they need Neo because Smith became a virus. And you go like, but dude, you already showed me that there are like so many outlier programs. So you're telling me Smith is the only one because he had a contact with Neo? So none of the other ones destroyed an agent. That's what you're telling me. And if Smith were to infect the Matrix, why didn't they just purge it? If they made it clear that they have the skill of remaking the Matrix. You see? So in the end, I think it's inevitable to ask all of these questions. And the beautiful thing about it is that even though there are like probably millions of papers and books written about like the Matrix philosophy, right? One never needed it. One never needed it. Like I never questioned any aspect of Matrix 1. Any of it. Even though it has like some cheesy moments or like some also anime bullshit like I don't know, I'm gonna learn every martial art in the world, whatever, right? Like even though they had these crafty things to make it entertaining, you never question it. It's like, oh, of course you can. If your mind is connected to a computer, of course you can learn kung fu. I know kung fu. Of course you can do it. Show me. Like of course you can learn to pilot a helicopter by uploading the manual to your brain. Like of course you can do it. Like you never question it. But of course you're gonna question if the fucking dude comes back from the Matrix and can stop things with his hand. Like do every sentinel in the Matrix has the same consciousness as an agent? Right? Like dude, it's like so frustrating. And I think in the end, and what sort of like leads me or led me back during my Spanish episode towards like the inevitable conclusion that my hate for these movies comes from the contrast of me loving too much the first one. Because it's evident, it's obvious, Matrix 1 is for everyone. Matrix 2, 3, and 4 don't make me think about that one, right? Matrix 2, 3, and 4, they're not for everyone. They're just for the Wachowskis. It's just their grandiose idea of this. Of course, I'm gonna mention Lord of the Rings of creating this like magical, mythical world where like you can come up with everything that you want. That's why I said I wasn't going to talk about it, but I'm gonna mention it. That's why Matrix 4 exists, because they are in this stage of their idea that they think they can come up with any bullshit they want and somehow explain it. Somehow it has a space inside their own worldview and their own lore, right? They can come up with anything, like whatever they want to do. Some Twitch chat here. The virus thing, I bought it. While it made sense, the other stuff just seemed created just to be an enemy, right? And I need to also mention quickly how Matrix Revolutions and Reloaded, I was from Reloaded to Revolution, those are movies that they don't really as good as they pretend to look. So even then you can like sort of compare them both, like the first three, and think like, okay, we're gonna go big, we're gonna go crazy. And to this day, and when I watch it again, there are so many, but so many moments in Matrix Reloaded when not only you see shitty CGI, but you see the stunt doubles. and I know it's unfair. Like you have that scene where like Smith, Neo fights like a million Smiths, and of course many of them, if you want to give some like realism to the scene, of course some of them had to be stunt doubles. but it's so shitty, man. There are like some of them that you could tell. Like I would be embarrassed to re-release a movie like this in like 4K or like anything. Well, I don't have any case near me, like, but I would be embarrassed to let people know how shitty this looks because it does. So the th- the thing is, like, this movie to me gets worse with the years. I'm I try to be as positive as I can, and I was expecting to find some redeeming qualities for both of these movies like 20 so years ago. But the fact of the matter is, Matrix Reloaded and Matrix Revolutions, they killed the Matrix. And it's funny because Matrix 1, after it came out, like, if you live through those years, right? Like, there's probably like a million videos on YouTube or like whatever, like making compilations of like, oh, okay, this is all the references, like, or like the million movies that did the jokes with the slow motion and everything. Like, the Matrix was a big deal. It was a big thing, but it always kept its heart. Like, even though you could say like, oh, they were just selling sunglasses or like some BDSM shit, right? Like, you could say that they had so many commercial and like industrialized level marketing related to it, but it always kept its heart, and everything design wise and world building wise in every other aspect became so shitty. One of the things that I remember when I watched these movies that back in the day I just ignored was that the fact that they look so fucking weird, all dressed in leather and whatever. That is the opening scene for Matrix Reloaded, right? When they're having this big council of captains, and they look so fucking stupid. What is this? Like some sort of like a BDSM congress or whatever? Like they look so stupid. But in one, it made sense. It was the sort of like their uniform, right? It was like, okay, everything was so like sort of cartoonish. So this is our uniform, like a revolutionary uniform, and like we fight against the agents that they are dressed like FBI agents, which is there. Okay, it's fine. But if you are infiltrating the Matrix, why the hell would you choose to look the same? So if you expand the idea from a group of revolutionaries to an army, like an army of spies, why would they choose all to dress the same? Like, you don't even need to be an agent or anything. It's like, oh wow, look at these guys, they're going to the leather convention. They're probably like hidden there, like they're like, okay, we're going to the leather convention. Like, no, they would know. They would totally know. So everything comes crumbling down progressively as I try to revisit these movies and find some redeeming qualities. They say the action, okay, the action is good, but it gets either interrupted or like completely broken by the effects or whatever they wanted to achieve, right? And it happens in every scene, like that orgy scene they have in Zion when they're like supposed to be like in the deepest part of the earth and everything. That scene gets broken by two things: the like the stage they built. As the image quality gets better, like you can see more of the imperfections, and secondly, by how like everybody's the same. Everybody's the same. Like, is there no variety in humanity? So they all go and they all have a big orgy, like in like close to the Earth's core, and then you go like, wouldn't like being close to the Earth core would like give you extra atmospheric pressure? Like, wouldn't you be able to not handle the heat? You see, and that is an issue. Like the big issue, world building, world building. You can't create a world and leave so many space for questions, because questions distract you from whatever point you're trying to make. And if the point you're trying to make is not just now that any mind can be like free enough from the constraints of reality to become the one, if your idea now is that, okay, what was the architects? No, like like humans are imperfect, but so are machines. Like, I don't know. And I guess that is like the only possible conclusion that I can get. Don't tell me that the Wachowskis had from the beginning the full idea and scope of the Matrix. I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe that when they were writing Matrix 1, they were already thinking about those ugly ass robots in revolutions, or like the idea of sentient programs. Like, no. In the end, I think Matrix 1 was a movie made for its time, and part of its success wasn't like relying on merely creativity, or like well, even though it's a well written and a well directed movie, like it wasn't for that. It wasn't for a great script or everything. No, I think that in the end of the day, Matrix 1 was the movie for a time and a place, and its success was due to that, for existing in a certain time and a place. It's like the dude in the Wachowskis, in the Lebowski, in Big Lebowski, right? Sometimes there's a man for a time and a place where he fits perfectly, because it appeals to a zeitgeist of a moment in time. And The Matrix was the movie for its time and place. And the fact that nothing that has come up after that has come even close to its brilliance or success just reaffirms that point, that it was a movie for a time and a place. And it had the perfect amount of dimensions and the perfect questions for that time and place. But now, it's like if you go into the Matrix, what you're gonna get into like typod challenge or something like that. Like how would the architect explain like social media nowadays? Like what the fuck is that? Is it getting more energy out of the humans that they have plugged in the Matrix? Like how you explain that? How you explain, I don't know, social media and like influencers and like ads? What are ads? Like also new sentient programs that wanna sell us like some weird timeshares? I don't know, man. I guess my only final thought is that these movies still suck. They still suck for one big reason, and it's not that the first one is that good. It's that the first one, they owe it to the first one. They owe it to the first one. But in the end, it was like a sort of like not art, but like an author filmmaking, and they had their idea and they could do whatever the hell they wanted with it. So I guess they fucked up. But anyways, I think that's my time. I'm gonna try to keep going back to all franchises and all ideas as I keep doing this. Also, kind of like just for me and like the couple of dozen of people that listen to me, and like keep doing these reflections and these ideas on movies and entertainment, because I am, as the dude and as the Matrix, a man for a time and a place, which is me right here right now, being self-serving, because That's probably the only food you can get for the soul these days. Hope you get yours. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.